the question we have from this side is, in some of the local masājid, they may teach from some of the books of the salaf, like they may teach from Ṣifah Ṣalāt al-Nabī of Shaykh al-Albani. However, they also praised figureheads and host various Ikhwānīs. Is it correct to say about these masājid that they are closer to the Sunnah? And how do we judge things like this if we are new to the Sunnah ourselves?
Allah Ta'ala yubarik fikum. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin wa ba'd. So the question, alhamdulillah ta'ala, is an important question, and it's a question which is posed on many occasions. That when you speak to someone, especially those that are new to Salafiyya and new to Sunnah, they may find themselves praying at a masjid. Perhaps in their travels, they stop to pray and they find that there's a masjid, and in that masjid, perhaps they are teaching the books of, they may find that people reading from, for example, Shaykh al-Albani, rahimahullah ta'ala, or you walk in and you find them teaching the books of Shaykh Abdul-Aziz ibn Baz, Allahu ta'ala yarhamuhu rahmatan wasi'a. And immediately they come to this decision and they come to this conclusion that khalas, this masjid must be a Salafi masjid. And wallahi alaykum ya ikhwati, Allahu yubarik fikum, that this is not sufficient. This is not sufficient. And what is ahaqqu an yuqra? What has more right to be read is the book of Allah Ta'ala and the Sunnah, the ahadith of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. So if we walk into a masjid and they are reading the book of Allah, or they are reading the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, will we then say, khalas, this is a Salafi masjid, that this is a masjid upon the Sunnah? Abadan, abadan. There is a reason why Muhammad ibn Sirin, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, لما وقعت الفتنة, who are your men? Who do you cooperate with? Who do you sit with? Who do you invite? Who do you consider to be from your scholars? There is no doubt that a Shaykh Abdul-Aziz ibn Baz was held in high esteem even by the people of Bid'ah. And I'll give a story here. Sometimes a story can have an effect that just speaking does not. I remember back, this is 1999, 2000, and this is after the death of Shaykh Abdul-Aziz ibn Baz, rahimahullah ta'ala. And I visited one of my uncles. I was young back at that time, and my uncle was a very strong proponent, a very strong defender of al-A'la al-Mawdudi. And he was upon that manhaj, the manhaj of Hakimiyya and the manhaj of the Ikhwānī, upon that. And I remember walking into his house and there was a magazine, and the magazine was upside down. And the magazine was upside down, and on the back cover of it, there was an i'lan, there was an announcement of the death of al-Imam, al-Shaykh al-Mufti, Abdul Aziz bin Abdullah ibn Baz, rahimahullah ta'ala, in the Urdu language. And I read it. And I said, subhanallah, how is it that my uncle has a magazine that is a Salafi magazine? And this is al-Imam Abdul Aziz ibn Baz, rahimahullah ta'ala. And I turned the magazine over, and it was a magazine of al-Ikhwān al-Muslimin from Pakistan, praising Shaykh Abdul Aziz ibn Baz, rahimahullah ta'ala. Yet if you looked into the content of that magazine, you found nothing but the manhaj and the ideology and the aqidah of Jamaat Islami of al-A'la al-Mawdudi. So this in itself is not a sufficient measure of who to sit with and who not to sit with. It said regarding Muhammad ibn Sirin, rahimahullah ta'ala, himself, that two men entered in upon him, and they said, نَقْرَأُ عَلَيْكَ آيَةً مِنْ كِتَابِ اللَّهِ. We want to read upon you a verse from the book of Allah, a verse from the book of Allah Ta'ala. And Muhammad ibn Sirin, his answer to them was, either you stand up and you leave, or I am going to leave. And the people, they were surprised. They were surprised, and they said, what would have been wrong if they would have recited to you the book of Allah. It was the book of Allah, it was the verses from the Quran. And Ibn Sirin, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that I feared that they would have recited those verses in a manner. They would have recited those verses in a manner and they would have distorted them. And that would have found a place in my heart. So I advise all of my brothers and my sisters, do not take a teacher except that they are known to the scholars of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, or they are known to the callers of Sunnah in your locality, in your country. Because Ahlul Haqq are with Ahlul Haqq. They are with the people of truth. Even now, I'm not going to mention any names. People nowadays appear upon YouTube. People going and creating these videos and things like this, and people look at these videos and say, "Oh, subhanallah, he's speaking of this, and he's speaking of Tawheed, and he's speaking of this, and oh, maybe he is Salafi, maybe he's Salafi," only because they are entertained by that individual. That's it. It's the entertainment that they like. It's the large numbers that they like. And you fast forward, and if you're patient, then you find 2 or 3 or 4 days later, and now they are sitting with Ahlul Bid'ah, they're cooperating with Ahlul Bid'ah, they're praising Ahlul Bid'ah. Do not learn your religion except from those that are the scholars of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah and recognized by the scholars of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. From the callers of Sunnah, those that have been known to be calling to Sunnah for years and for decades in our lands. Learn from them, sit with them, and learn from those that are attached to them. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala knows best. Allahu